Hey everybody, this is Kimberly with Investing in Lives, and today we're here for another Life Talk, which basically are honest conversations with students and young adults about challenges they face and how they were empowered to overcome them. So today I have someone with me that I've known, I don't know, this is Caroline Brown. And Caroline, how long have I known you?
Yeah, goodness. So I think I met you when I was 14,
Oh,
which would
wow.
be almost 12 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So we've known each
Yeah.
other for 12 years. One of our favorite memories of our time together is we were serving at Seven Bridges to Recovery, cooking a meal for the women and children who lived there. And it was actually a electric stove.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that electric stoves could flame when a little bit of grease got on them. So
Ignite.
they do ignite. And we were cooking
Yes.
sloppy joes and cooking the ground beef, and it went up in flames right there. And we both turned to look to each other to see if our eyebrows were still on our face. And so over these last years, Caroline have just kind of done life together off and on through the different seasons and things like that. And so Caroline, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background and where you are now.
Yeah. So again, Caroline, I've known Kimberly for many years. She's known me through a lot of seasons. I'm now 25 years old. Went to Lambert High School, had a really great high school experience personally. Had an affinity for business and marketing, and so took that with me to the University of Georgia. And kind of the thread of serving that I had planted in me through Flood in high school kind of carried me through my time at Georgia. I ended up staying for a master's degree as well immediately following. And I guess now 2 years ago, started my job working at Lilly and Company as a market research associate there. So yeah, been a lot of growing pains during that time. But that's just a little bit about me and kind of the last decade.
Wow, decade, 10 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
decade plus. My
Okay.
goodness, I'm feeling old.
Girl, you ain't old. You are not old. So with those years that Caroline we've kind of done life a little bit together. It's kind of funny now. She kind of helps me with some of my stuff that I have going on. I love it when the tables kind of turn. But one of the things that we kind of talked a lot about and the topic that we're going to discuss today are family dynamics. I actually did a video not a couple of days ago where I talked about that and how children should not let their parents define them, like what's happening to them, those family dynamics. And so you wanted to talk about family dynamics. Why did you choose that topic? Because you could have picked a couple of different ones, but that's the one you landed on. And as I meet with students now, and then a lot of students, we'll talk a little bit more about what it looks like with you being married and taking that into consideration. This is so important. So why
Mhm.
did you choose the topic of family dynamics?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, part of my area of focus that I work in, that I studied in, is psychology related. And so if I think about the formative years of your life, the major influences on that is your family of origin, your extended family, the dynamics from your extended family. So your parents and their extended family may have one, your other parent and theirs. And so I think for me, I am who I am. I've become who I've become in large part due to navigating some tough family dynamics. For me, my parents are now divorced for, I guess, 5 years, but obviously weren't always for my life. And, I've just had to learn how to communicate effectively through a lot of different seasons in my family. Again, not just in my family of origin, which also includes one sister, but in kind of the differing dynamics across extended families in my personal case. So again, I think it's a topic that is just really important to explore as a young person, so that you can learn, again, how to effectively communicate, how to self-advocate, how to understand that not everyone communicates the same way, but also learn from a really young age, you are not your parents. Like I do not have to approach my marriage the same way that my parents approached theirs. I do not have to approach finances the same way, or, disciplining children the same way, or sharing or oversharing in the same way. So there's just a lot to be learned, even from our parents' mistakes, which it's not that they're making mistakes all the time. There were great things that my parents imparted on me and still do to this day. But I just think it's a topic that needs to be discussed more because of what a great impact it has on not just our future families, but also relationships at work and with friends, in addition. So behavior is learned, but it can be unlearned or corrected. And so I think it's just a dynamic topic to continue to discuss as we continue to learn and grow.
Okay, so you did a great job, like sharing like the importance of that. So one of the things that I really try hard working with students, young adults, in your case, when you were back in high school and stuff, we talked a lot about this. And we truly want to make sure we always honor parents and things like that, because we parents, we know we don't get it right. So in light of that, what were some of the ways the family dynamics negatively impacted you? And affected you, both maybe in high school, but then also like in college?
Yeah. I might even go back further than high school. When I was 8 years old, I won't go into all the details, but just learned some information about my parents' relationship that was really quite young to be learning such things. Again, I was 8. So if you think about how that might affect an 8-year-old, it can really cause like a sense of urgency to grow up. And so there were some kind of dynamics. I'm the oldest child, and that, my parents might have shared some things with me that really kind of force matured me in some ways, and also kind of put me in a role of mediator that perhaps was, unhealthy in some ways. And so even from, I believe I was 12 actually, when I started counseling, family counseling, one-on-one counseling, all that good stuff. And so I am a huge advocate of counseling. I still go to counseling today. But I think the communication style of my parents was a fairly negative impact, in the sense that I had not really been given many examples of healthy and good communication and conflict resolution. It was kind of like extremist, if you will, like totally cower, walk away, do not readdress, or like attack, use fighting words, don't give grace to the person, kind of thing. And so, and I'm sure, again, there were conversations that I didn't see that were different than that. But just for the sake of example, that was a lot of what I did see, or at least a lot of what I remember seeing, because of how impactful it can be to be exposed to such communication of a young person. So in that sense, I, again, just really struggled to kind of figure out how to adapt my communication in various relationships, whether it was my sister, friends, romantic relationships when I was younger and dating, that kind of thing. And so have had to do a lot of work on myself to kind of refine those things, and, forgive my parents, forgive myself for when I wasn't as graceful in my communication, but like never think of it as a place to arrive at. It's always something I can continue to grow and change and be better at. So I would say, again, just the being maybe overshared with, and seeing some kind of extremist communication styles were probably the negative impact that it had. But there were positive things again as well.
Well, that's one of the things that, I'm going to mention a couple of things, but I think that's one of the main reasons why you and I probably clicked, hit it off, whatever, when you were in high school is that we both come from that broken family. We both have some history of alcoholism in our family. We both had to grow up pretty quickly. We both were kind of put in situations where we kind of had to be the parent in some situations, take care, being the oldest, we can tend to, and also with our temperaments and being the oldest in those situations, wanting to control things became kind of big. And so we both kind of shared some of those things, and we were able to, I hate to say bond over those things, but maybe just understand and relate. And I know as we've walked through life together, that's been some of the things that we've kind of talked through and worked through as well. And so both of us have had to learn to kind of navigate that. So with that in mind, and then also with the communication and all that kind of stuff, you're engaged to be married. And I know y'all went through some premarital counseling. So this probably all came up.
All of it.
All of it. And then his stuff came up too.
Yeah.
So how are you as an individual, and then also as a couple, how are y'all setting yourself up for marriage in light of both bringing family dynamics, the things that maybe you do want to change, you don't want to repeat, like you talked about? How has that been going through that process?
Yeah. Again, huge advocate for counseling. So premarital counseling was something that I really craved. And my fiance is from the Netherlands. And so counseling culture is a little different, as is his family dynamic situation, far different from mine. And so honestly, we were talking about this earlier today, he and I, that I remember on day 2 of meeting him, the second day I ever met this man, I just said, these are the topics that are important to me. Like we didn't go surface level. Like from the very beginning, I just communicated what I felt in the most gentle and kind way possible. I've certainly not been perfect at that over the last, going on 3 years that we've, been together, but it was just something that personally, I think we really clicked well on because of his culture. So he, like I said, is Dutch, and something that's very specific to the Dutch culture is very direct communication, almost such that it can come off as, blunt or even kind of harsh sometimes. But again, because of kind of the extremes of communication that I had grown up with, learning to come meet in the middle, but while being very direct, it just worked for the two of us. And so one of the sessions of our premarital counseling was communication. So we've identified our temperaments, and interestingly enough, I was not expecting this, but we have the same temperament. And so, we've learned how to kind of approach each other in the midst of sharing that temperament. We are also the same number on the Enneagram, also unexpected, which I just think honestly was a gift from God, that we've kind of had these similarities to share. I think where we differ, or maybe have a challenge, and we've identified that in counseling, is, for example, his parents are still madly in love. They've been married for, 35 years. Amazing people. I love them. They've just been such a great example. One thing Martijn has identified, though, as kind of a button is, when he was in high school and his mom would try to tell him what to do. And me being the controlling person that I can be, that, is a point of tension. And so I think for us, we've just had to try to identify, and that's just one example, the places where we will have conflict, but even more importantly, how to work through the conflict such that we come out of it even closer. And so like the number one thing that we've actually started doing, which was a practical tool that came out of counseling for me, is if we get what we call flooded or over emotional, we just stop talking. But the key is that you always promise to go back to each other, which is something that our temperament and our number, specifically needs and craves is kind of just, please don't leave me. Like, please
Mhm.
promise to come back to me. And so we've had to be really intentional about that in our conflict resolution. Um, so, yeah, I think, because of my background in counseling for more years of my life than not, which is kind of crazy to think about at this point in my life, a lot of these tools were already things we were discussing prior to premarital counseling just because they're a part of me.
Right.
Um, and so that's really benefited us in a lot of ways. And we're just quick to identify things. And again, not perfect at it. There are times when, my feelings get the best of me or what have you, but it's like the letting go of the rope quickly, apologizing quickly, and being genuine in that apology. Um, and understanding that we're going to continue to fail each other because we're human beings. But just having that grace and the deep understanding of where it comes from in each of us, like he knows all the details of my upbringing and the dynamics in it, and then I do for him, and so it just kind of brings this compassion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that was more about you and your stuff than it really was about what I said to you,
Mm.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we just have grace for that and compassion. So it's been great, and I'm excited to be married.
Yeah. So yeah. So just in case anybody's watching this and happens to watch this, her fiance stuck over there, and they can't get married right now. So
Yeah.
they were supposed to get married in. You've already been
April.
married?
I would
April.
already have been a wife. Yeah.
No, we've kind of lost a little bit of track of time with
I
this.
know. My goodness.
Yeah. So if anybody's
Like,
watching
it's
this,
June next week.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody's watching this, say a prayer for her and more
Yes.
time. They would appreciate it. Okay. So to wrap this up, I work with a lot of, every week I'm working with students in family dynamics and helping them advocate for themselves, teaching them, doing that through healthy communication, helping them kind of understand how their parents are wired with their temperaments. If you could say 3 things to a high schooler, a young adult, who has really struggled with those family dynamics, what would be the top things advice that you would give them to kind of help them through this season?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually kind of wrote some things down. Really wanted to reflect on this. And so I think I sort of alluded to one of these concepts earlier, but I just remember sitting as like a high school student thinking, oh my gosh, this is not good. This is negative. It's negatively affecting me. And for me personally, uh, I thought that performing and putting out this image of perfection was the way around it. But I think the message is just, again, like, it does not have to stay negative and challenging because you are not your parents, and like I mentioned as well, you may have learned some of these tendencies from your parents, but you can unlearn them and correct them. They are not imprinted on you forever. And God is a God of redemption. Like, I've had some redemptive conversations with my parents, opportunities to have really fruitful and grace filled conversations about things that have happened in the past, but also, kind of present conversations. So you are not your parents. You can move on from it. The second thing was um, kind of this stigma around the word confrontation. Um, I feel that there is a negative connotation with the word confrontation, but really, I just feel that there's, an opportunity to get comfortable with the idea that all confrontation is just healthy, intentional and direct communication. um, and so, you can confront and communicate with your family members in a loving and kind way, and should feel empowered to do so even at a young age. And that's something that I had, it took me a while to learn that one. Um, and then lastly, I think, our parents in a lot of cases can be, twice our age. They've lived a lot more life than us. They do know things that we don't know. But I think at the end of the day, you can only control your own words and your own actions. And this applies to those family dynamics and communication opportunities. And so, kind of like Kimberly alluded to, like there's kind of been like a reversal in roles, such that, you know, when I've really taken that to heart, I've seen both of my parents kind of pause and reframe how they communicate with me, because I chose to do so in a different way. And they received it well. And like I said, there have been redemptive conversations, but not only do I reference that idea in my family, but again, also like friendships, working relationships, with my fiance, with my in-laws, all that kind of stuff. It really is just about kind of getting right in your own heart and soul, and understanding that you can't control the people around you, but just speak blessings, over people rather than curses and negativity. And it really does, like, if it comes from that place, it really can change the conversation right then and there for the people and how they respond to you. So, yeah, I think those are long-winded 3 things, but those were some of my thoughts on that.
Well, I'm going to take credit, even if I can't take credit. That last thing where you said about speak blessings.
Oh, that's right. That is right.
I'm going to take credit for teaching you that one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I cannot tell you how many times I have sat in front of the student and they kind of share like their frustrations with their parents and stuff like that. I'm like, just speak blessings over them.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch there be a shift that changes just by you changing the words and the environment. And that's a huge one for me. And that's a good reminder actually for me to do that. We forget to do that when we're in the middle of stuff and the yuck with people. We forget to do that. We tend to always start leaning towards the negative, which pretty much results in our own needs not getting met, when maybe just shift it and let's bless the people that we love as well.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. And try to have compassion for like how your parents were raised too. I've had a couple of conversations even recently where I can only control my own actions and my own words. I'm going to speak blessings over my dad, for example. And I just have this like heart of, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what you've been through. Or, like, wow, everything makes sense to me because I'm seeing him like through the eyes of the Lord in that moment. And it's because I chose to speak a blessing and not like curse him for saying something that I didn't like to hear, or what, whatever it may be. So,
and we're not saying it's easy, people. We're not saying it's easy, but
years and years and years of counseling,
but with the
and
grace
never
of
stopping.
God, but with the grace of God. And as Caroline was saying, and the power of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Of course.
And sharing your heart and that kind of good stuff. And so even if just one student or parent watches this and there's a shift that takes place in a home and in a heart and in a mind because of this, we're just very, very thankful for that. So thanks a lot. And thanks for joining us, guys. And as always, check out investinginlives.org for more information.